Welcome to Oma's Story Nook Jr., where little whispers become big wonders and every story comes home carrying a light. Today, under the palm-fringed sky of a village where songs travel farther than footprints, we tell of a drum that answered hunger, a promise that broke, and the music that taught a heart to listen. In the time when the moon lingered low to gossip with rooftops, there lived a boy named Akaello. He was small and bright-eyed, with feet that knew every path between the yam fields and the river stones, and a smile that made elders say, "Ah, the sun hides in that one's teeth." Akaello loved music more than mangoes, more than the cool splash of river water on a hot day, more than the lazy shade beneath the silk cotton tree. When he worked, he hummed. When he rested, he tapped rhythms on gourds and calabashes, on benches and door frames, on his own knees when nothing else was near. If joy had a heartbeat, it beat in Akaello's hands. But times had grown lean. The rains came late, the yams slept in the dust, and the market baskets felt the shame of being empty. Mothers stretched soups with stories. Fathers fed children with hope. Hunger learned everyone's name. One night, as Akaello walked home from the river, bare feet damp, heart still tapping, a glow pooled beneath the pathside shrubs. Two little lights blinked like clever eyes. A pair of fireflies rose, circling him in a soft spiral. They moved as if they knew a song he did not, drawing a trail of gold dust in the dark. Akaello followed, past the old anthill, past the restless goats, into a pocket of night that smelled like new rain and first dreams. There, between the roots of an iroko tree, lay a drum, not large, not grand, its shell the soft brown of roasted plantain, its skin tied with braided twine. Patterns danced along its rim, symbols that looked like footsteps telling a secret. Akaello reached out. The drum felt warm, as if the last sunset had been folded inside it and tucked to sleep. A whisper, not in words but in knowing, brushed his ear. Play with a full heart. Akaello lifted the drum. It fit him, like a story fits a mouth that was meant to tell it. At dawn, Akaello brought the drum to the center of the compound where hunger sat with everyone, uninvited and very loud. Mothers measured palm oil as if it were moonlight. Children watched the pot with eyes round as calabash lids. Akaello swallowed. He set the drum on his knees. He lifted his hands. The sound was a promise kept. It slipped into the morning air, found the places where worry had made knots, and started loosening them. The first miracle was a scent, something golden and savory, like stew after rain. Then came the steam, curling upwards like quiet laughter. And then the food itself, soft and shining. Steamed yam slices, pepper soup, ripe plantain, a basket of groundnuts doing their best to look modest. A tray of akara fritters so proud and puffy, even the elders smiled. A great pot of jollof hummed politely as if to say, "I am here too." Mouths opened. Bellies sang. Laughter shook itself awake and ran from door to door. Akaello's mother's eyes filled like calabashes in the rain. "My son," she whispered, "what music is this?" Akaello only shook his head and kept playing, careful and thankful. The drum answered like a friend who knew what to bring when you were too proud to ask. Word traveled, as it always does, faster than goats when you forget to tie them. By noon, the whole village had eaten. By evening, neighbors came from paths Akaello had never walked, bringing empty bowls and leaving with full hearts. Akaello played until the stars yawned, and the drum never once forgot its kindness. Where generosity gathers, greed sometimes pokes its sharp elbows and says, "Make room for me." In a house larger than most and louder than all lived Chief Okke. His wrappers were bright, his bracelets heavy, his words sometimes heavier. He liked his soups rich, his cola nuts fresh, and his praise long. When he heard of a drum that called feasts out of thin air, his eyes narrowed like a door on strangers. A drum that feeds without farming, he scoffed. Who watches the market while miracles walk around? Bring the boy, bring the drum. We will see if stories are eating more than people. Messengers followed Akaello's music to his doorway. They spoke politely, carrying Chief Okke's impatience in their posture. Akaello's mother touched his shoulder. Go carefully, my son. Akaello nodded. He carried the drum like a baby you know is lighter than it looks. In the chief's compound, people pressed in like a curious sea. The chief reclined, one eyebrow arched toward the sun. Play, he commanded. Feed us. Feed all of us. And make it quick. Hunger is not a patient visitor. Akaello set the drum across his knees. He breathed once, twice, the way you breathe when you're about to call an old friend by name. He played. Food arrived. Agusi, okro, roasted tilapia, fufu mounded like small hills only the brave would climb. The crowd cheered. Even the chief's second eyebrow forgot its work and relaxed. But when the last gourd was filled, the chief leaned forward. His bracelets whispered together like gossiping crickets. Give it here, he said. A leader must safeguard such power. Akaello's hands tightened on the drum. It does not belong to me, he said softly. It belongs to the kind of heart that plays it. The chief smiled without warmth. Then let your chief keep your heart safe, he said, and he reached. Chief Okke locked the drum in his inner room, the room where only his shadow knew the way, where the walls had learned not to tell stories. He rubbed his hands together like dry sticks. Now, he said to the empty air, let us feast forever. He sat with the drum on his knees, but his heart was not steady. It was greedy, tapping too fast, like a child trying to run with a bowl of soup without spilling. He struck the skin. The air stiffened, the way it does when a lie tries to smile. Something arrived, not food, not comfort, a bundle of switches, thin sticks willing to do work no one should ask them to do. They hovered. They listened for the name of the hungry. Then they swarmed. Aye! Screamed the chief, dancing the worst dance in the world, the dance of a man who has misplaced his dignity. He tried to cover his head, but the switches found every boast and thwacked it. He tried to run, but the room had no door except the one his pride had closed. He played again, desperate, fingers slapping nonsense across the skin. The drum refused him. It knew the taste of his heart and did not like the seasoning. Outside, guards heard the commotion, but the chief did not shout for help. Shame is a tightrope you would rather walk alone than ask someone to hold your hand. By evening, exhausted and welted like a schoolboy who learned nothing from warnings, Chief Okke cracked the door and peered out with the carefulness of someone who has met his match. He sent the drum back, not with an apology, with fear. The messengers carried the drum as if it might bite. They placed it at Akaello's feet and took 3 rapid steps back. Akaello lifted it. It felt heavier, not in weight, but in story. His mother's eyes asked the question her mouth did not. Akaello nodded. He would play. But first, he set the drum down and spoke, a boy addressing a village that had grown bigger than itself. This drum is not a pot without a lid, he said. It does not belong to one person. It does not serve pride. It helps where hearts bend toward one another. He looked around, past faces and fears, to the space stories used when they want to be heard. Let us make a rule, he went on. When we are hungry together, when we work together, when we share together, the drum will answer. But if anyone plays with greed in their chest, may they be ready to dance the chief's dance. Even Chief Okke, lurking in the shade of his own doorway, touched his sore pride and managed a nod that did not break anything on its way down. Akaello sat down. He played the true rhythm. Food came as before, simple, sufficient, singing. But the feast tasted different now. It is no longer delicious. Weeks passed. Bellies forgot the ache of yesterday. Work returned to its usual quarrels and jokes. The drum became a friend everyone greeted with respect. Then the sky stacked up blue upon blue and did not break. The fields cracked like old calabash. The river whispered when it should have shouted. The market smelled of dust and patience. Hunger returned. Not as a stranger now, but as a relative who does not know when to go home. Akaello brought out the drum. The village gathered with quiet faces. He played, carefully, hopefully. The rhythm rose like a prayer. Nothing came. A few groundnuts rolled in, shy and apologetic. A small bowl of soup blinked at itself as if embarrassed to be seen alone. The drum's voice thinned, as if it were tired from carrying everyone's wishes. Akaello's hands slowed. He felt the space inside the sound, a hollow he could not patch with faster fingers. He looked up. He saw the truth. The drum's kindness had never grown yams, never called rain, never weeded plots. It had only stretched what people shared and turned it into enough. Tomorrow, Akaello said softly, we plant, we fetch, we repair, we make. He smiled, a little crooked, a little stubborn. We will wake the rain with work. They repaired roofs, patched walls, pulled weeds that bragged too much. They dredged the shallow places where the river had forgotten its depth and reminded it with patient hands. Mothers taught children how to count the rhythm of planting. One hope, one seed, one day, one weed. Chief Okke arrived wearing humility like a new, slightly uncomfortable cloth. He brought 10 men and 20 hoes, and a silence that said, "Let my hands speak before my mouth does." By late afternoon, the sky sighed. A breeze loosened its collar. The first drop struck a dusty gourd and made a note so pretty a baby laughed just to hear it again. They let the rain name them clean. That evening, wet and grinning, they gathered. Akaello lifted the drum with hands that had dug, carried, shared. He played. Food came, not in a rush, not as a spectacle, but as a thank you. Bowls filled, voices warmed. The drum sounded like a guest who knows when to leave and how to return. Akaello sometimes sat with the drum when the compound slept, tapping very lightly, listening for the wisdom in its wood. He learned its 2 secrets. First, the drum answered truth. If you beat it with the greedy heart, it called the switches, because sometimes the body must remember what the mind forgets. Second, the drum answered together. One person's hunger is a shout. Many people's care is a song. The drum loved songs. So, when travelers asked for the story, in markets 2 villages away, in courtyards where his name arrived before his feet, Akaello told it this way. The drum does not make miracles. It multiplies them. He kept the drum, but not as a treasure locked to his name. He kept it as a door anyone could knock on, as a bridge anyone could cross. Even Chief Okke, who had once wanted the drum as a crown for his pride, learned to come carrying what he could and leaving with what he needed. He became known for a laugh that made food taste better, and for a way of listening that made people taller. And so, the village learned the rhythm of enough. Hands working, hearts sharing, music reminding. The drum kept its promise because the people kept theirs. Hunger still visited sometimes, as all troubles do, but it never found the compound empty of kindness. If you listen closely on warm evenings, you may hear a far-off pattern. Dum-dum-paw, dum-dum-paw. steady as footsteps on a familiar path. That is the sound of a community feeding itself with courage, turning little into plenty and plenty into love.
Thanks for watching, friends. We had fun today. Subscribe, like, and comment.